You are standing in your kitchen right now, or you were this morning. You turned on a flame or pressed a button and heat happened. You put food near it, and a few minutes later you ate something that your body could actually use. You have done this so many times that it registers as nothing, as background, as the least interesting part of your day. But that flame changed everything about what you are. Not what you eat, what you are. The size of your brain, the shape of your face, the length of your gut, the reason you live as long as you do, the reason you can think the thoughts you are thinking right now. All of it traces back to the moment a human being, somewhere, held food near fire and did not walk away. So when did that happen? And why? And what did it cost? The answer reaches back further than you have been taught. It overturns what you think you know about human evolution. And it ends somewhere that most people are not prepared to go. Let's start with what cooking actually is, because the definition matters more than you think. The word cook comes from the Latin cocere, to prepare, to ripen, to digest. That last meaning is the one nobody remembers. To digest. Because that is precisely what cooking does before the food ever enters your mouth. It pre-digests. Heat breaks down the cellular walls of plants. It denatures proteins in meat. It destroys pathogens. It increases the bioavailable calories in almost every food it touches. A raw sweet potato gives your body roughly 33% of its calories. A cooked sweet potato gives you nearly 100%. You are not eating more. Your body is simply able to extract more from what you eat. Think about what that means across a lifetime, across a species. The earliest solid evidence of controlled fire used for cooking comes from Wonderwerk Cave in the northern Cape of South Africa. In 2012, archaeologist Francesco Berna and his team at Boston University published findings in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences confirming burnt bone and plant ash deposits dating to roughly 1 million years ago. 1 million, not 10,000 years ago with the agricultural revolution, not 100,000 years ago with modern humans. 1 million years ago, before Homo sapiens existed as a species, something that would eventually become you was already cooking its food. But here's what's fascinating. The physical evidence of fire is one thing. The evidence written into your body is something else entirely. Your gut is too small. That is not an insult. It is a biological fact with a precise implication. The human digestive tract is roughly 60% smaller than you would expect for a primate of your body size. Gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, our closest relatives, have enormous digestive systems relative to their bodies. They need them. Raw plant matter is extraordinarily difficult to break down. It requires a long, slow, expensive digestive process. Your ancestors at some point outsourced that process to fire, and once they did, the gut began to shrink, because it no longer needed to do the work alone. That shrinking had a consequence nobody anticipated. The gut is metabolically expensive. Maintaining that much digestive tissue costs enormous amounts of energy your body had to find somewhere. When the gut shrank, that energy was freed. And evolution, with the cold logic it always applies, redirected it upward. In 1999, primatologist Richard Wrangham at Harvard University published what would become one of the most debated ideas in paleoanthropology. He called it the cooking hypothesis. His argument was precise and uncomfortable. The rapid expansion of the human brain that began roughly 1.8 million years ago, the expansion that produced Homo erectus and eventually you, was not driven primarily by social complexity or tool use or language. It was driven by cooking. The caloric surplus unlocked by cooked food funded the most expensive organ in the known universe. Your brain consumes 20% of your body's energy while accounting for only 2% of your body weight. No other primate can afford that. You can because someone started cooking. Your intelligence is a side effect of a kitchen. But here's the part nobody talks about. Cooking did not just change what your body could do, it changed what your body required. Once a species begins cooking, it cannot go back. Not easily, not safely. In 2010, a study published in the American Journal of Physical Anthropology examined the dental records of raw food vegans, modern humans who eat exclusively unprocessed, uncooked food. Despite having access to the full range of modern produce, including calorie-dense fruits and nuts that our ancestors could never have found, 50% of the women in the study had lost their menstrual cycles entirely. Their bodies did not have enough caloric surplus to maintain reproduction. They were eating constantly, and it was not enough. Modern humans with modern food cannot sustain basic biological function on a raw diet. Your ancestors, 1 million years ago, began a process that made cooked food not a preference but a biological dependency. You are not an animal that cooks. You are an animal that cannot survive without cooking. That distinction matters. And it has never stopped mattering. And here's where it gets strange. The consequences of cooking were not only physical, they were social. Profoundly, structurally, irreversibly social. Raw food takes time to eat. Enormous amounts of time. A chimpanzee spends roughly 6 hours a day chewing. 6 hours. Their jaw muscles are so large they constrain the shape of the skull, running over the top of the head in a bony ridge called the sagittal crest. From the Latin sagitta, meaning arrow, for the arrow straight ridge that runs along the top of their skull. Your skull does not have that ridge. Your jaw muscles are small. Your face is flat. Your teeth are tiny by primate standards. Because at some point in your evolutionary past, chewing became less important than something else. Cooking reduced chew time dramatically. Food that required hours of raw mastication could be consumed in minutes once cooked. And that time, those hours every day, had to go somewhere. It went to the fire. The hearth became the organizational center of early human social life in a way that had no precedent in the animal kingdom. Groups gathered around a fixed point of heat and light. They shared food that had been prepared, not simply found. The fire created an economy of care. Someone tended it, someone gathered fuel, someone brought food to be cooked. Roles emerged. Obligations emerged. The fire was not just a cooking tool, it was the first institution. Think about this. Every human culture on Earth, without exception, cooks food. Everyone. Anthropologists have cataloged thousands of cultures across every continent and climate. None of them eat exclusively raw food. The universality is total. Cooking is not a technology humans invented and adopted. It is something humans became. And the historical record shows how deep that becoming went. In 1390, the cooks of King Richard II of England compiled what is now the oldest known cookbook in the English language, a manuscript called The Form of Cury. The title itself is a clue. Cury does not mean curry. It comes from the Old French cuire, to cook, which traces directly back to that same Latin root, coquere. The manuscript contains 196 recipes, including instructions for roasting, boiling, and what the authors called enduring, coating meat in egg yolk and gold leaf before cooking to make it shine like the sun. These were not survival instructions. They were art. By 1390, cooking had moved so far beyond necessity that it had become spectacle, performance, a language of power and pleasure that required its own written record. Your ancestors were not just feeding themselves. They were expressing themselves through fire. But here's the part that changes everything. In 1847, a German chemist named Justus von Liebig published a paper that would reshape the Western relationship with food for the next century and a half. He argued that the nutritional value of food could be extracted, concentrated, and sold in processed form. That cooking was inefficient, that the body needed specific chemical compounds, which he called extractives, and that these could be delivered more reliably through industrial processing than through traditional preparation. He was the intellectual ancestor of every processed food product ever manufactured. By the early 20th century, his framework had been absorbed into food science, into advertising, into the design of the modern diet. The idea that food was a delivery mechanism for nutrients, not a cultural practice, not a biological relationship, not something that required fire and time and attention, became the foundation of an industry worth trillions of dollars. Ultra-processed food now accounts for more than 57% of caloric intake in the United States. In the United Kingdom, 56%. These are not foods that your body evolved alongside. They are foods engineered to trigger the same neurological rewards as real food while bypassing the biological processes that cooking was supposed to complete. Your gut is shrinking further, not because evolution is improving it, because it is receiving inputs it was never designed to process. You did not evolve to eat what you are eating, you evolved to eat food that had been transformed by fire, by heat, by time, by human attention. The moment someone at Wonderwerk Cave held meat near a flame, they set a chain of biological dependency in motion that has never broken. Until now. Until an industry decided that the chain was inefficient and replaced fire with factories. Your brain is the size it is because of fire. Your face is the shape it is because of fire. Your gut is the length it is because of fire. Your social life, your institutions, your sense of gathering and sharing and obligation, all of it traces back to a circle of people sitting around heat, eating food that someone had taken the time to prepare. The cooks of King Richard II understood something that took the modern food industry 500 years to forget. That cooking was never just about calories, it was about what it meant to feed another person, to tend a fire for someone, to take raw matter and through patience and heat and attention, make it into something worth gathering around. That circle still exists, technically. It exists in every kitchen, every dinner table, every family that still sits down together around something warm. But the fire is mostly gone now, replaced by a factory in another country, a machine that has never touched the food it made, a package designed to look like something that was cooked. 1 million years ago, your ancestor held food near a flame and changed what it meant to be human. Tonight, you will probably open a package, and your body will not know the difference.